Well, good morning. If you want to see how we restored this cast iron park bench, stay tuned because that's what we're going to do today. Well, good morning. Welcome to another Memphis Monday. Memphis Monday 377, 13th week. I guess that means a quarter of the year has gone by already. Time sure flies. You've seen those like in parks and people's backyards and stuff, those old-timey cast iron garden benches, you know, with this, you know, the ends and legs and, you know, all the frame is cast iron and they've just put slats across there. Well, we got one of those to work on today. So that'll be a new project for us. So let's get us a cup of coffee, get our motors running, knock off the chit chat, and get to work. Here's the cast iron bench we're restoring. There's a cast iron part right there. I've already cut the slats for the seat. That was pretty straightforward. Basically, I'm using treated deck wood that's been properly dried out so I could work with it. And then you just round over the edges and it fits into this frame here, and then you bolt it in. Then there's a piece I think was missing. Usually these things have a metal brace that comes down the back and then wraps around the seating surface. So I fabricated this thing out of aluminum. So that will be bolted in place. And now for the thing we're really going to concentrate on. The feet are missing on this bench. They usually have little steel feet. They can be bolted down to concrete or whatever, but the metal feet are missing here, and the distance from the lowest point to the feet is only like 13 inches. This thing's sitting way too low. So I'm gonna try to come up with some kind of a wooden base for it to sit on, which will raise it about 4 inches off the ground, which will then make the seat itself, you know, the correct distance from the floor, which is about 18 inches. Okay, here you can see that I've got this inner section here sized to be the same thickness as my cast iron legs, and then I have these this 5/4 smashed in there, smashing it down. And then I'm going to put a spacer in here, and also I'm also going to put a spacer in here, which will lock those legs in place. And then I'm going to bolt through these two sides, the spacers and this side here will be all glued together. And then this final board here will be bolted on so you can take the legs on and off. And then the whole thing will be carved, and I'll try to make it look, you know, halfway presentable. Okay, let's do some gluing up. I didn't know my saw was this accurate. Look at this. This thin piece of wood. That's amazing. Okay, I glued up the bases. Now maybe you can see a little better how they operate. How it's going to work is the legs go into these notches. Let me show you close up. The legs, see, this is the part of the leg that's missing down here at the bottom. Got broke off or something. It's not there. So I'm going to set the legs in this notch, but not permanently, because I don't like to build things that aren't repairable. And then it sits in a notch, and this board goes over top of it, and it's attached with a bolt. Let me show you on the other side. Here's the other side. You can see I got a carriage bolt right here and right here. Just plan on having two of them, and I'll squeeze together on this leg. Now what I got to do is come up with some kind of design, you know, to fancy these things up a little bit. Now, I don't like to make things unnecessarily fancy. It just looks random to me when you make something fancy for no reason. But in this case, I got these, wrought iron shapes here, throughout the piece. So I really need the legs to have some sort of, similar, French curves here. So I'm going to take one of the legs off and see if I can't dream up some kind of a shape that goes along with this theme here. Well, I got the feet cut out here. What I did is I cut a template of this angle here, this angle on the arm, so that the angles down here wouldn't be too random. And then I just copied that angle throughout the project. So all the angles all the radiuses follow this theme right here. Okay, let me use this one as a guide and cut out the other one, and then we'll finish these up. I'm painting the frame using this Rust-Oleum high performance enamel. I've used it before. It seems to work okay. I got the cast iron all painted it flat black with some high performance Rust-Oleum paint. You'd think this stuff would be hard to paint, but it isn't, because it's got a lot of texture to it, and this paint job will really last 100 years. I also went ahead and painted up the wooden parts. Here's the bases. And the stuff I'm using is this stuff right here. I think it's basically a mixture of urethane and stain. And it's made for decks and fences, and it's real fancy, real fancy stuff. I thought it'd be real good on this particular project, but the problem with any kind of stain and urethane mix is it tends to blotch a lot, and you get streaking like right here, and here's some more. This is on the inside, but you can see that. See, you wouldn't get that with stain because it would, it would soak in, and of course you don't get it with polyurethane or urethane because it's transparent, so you don't really see it. So that's a drawback of using this stain urethane mix. We really jumped ahead a little bit here because I really want to spend some time on the assembly process because that's really the most intricate part. So let me set these things aside and clear some space to do some assembly. Well, with everything curved like it is, I've run into an issue I hadn't contemplated, and that is getting the bench itself plumb and square. So I think I'm going to stick these slats in here. These slats will be bolted in with carriage bolts, but I don't want to do that until the whole thing is square. Well, I finally solved the square and plumb problem. The problem with all these curves, I didn't have any place to start. So give me a starting point. I cut out this piece of 1/4-inch plywood and screwed it into the base here and ran my legs up against it. So now my base is square, and then I can just use my spirit level to check for plumb, and then to double check for plumb, I just take a measurement down here off the bottom. That's 45. And it's also 45 up here at the top. Now it could be racked and still be 45, but at least that tells me they're at least parallel. They could be, you could have they could be parallel, but it's still racked. But this thing, the plywood keeps it, but it's straight up and down because I already plumbed it. These seat slats are traditionally held in with bolts, and so that's what I'm doing now. There's a place for a bolt underneath there. I'll show you. And then the backrest goes on pretty easy. Right here are some pre-drilled countersunk holes for screws. So the screws I'm using are these 3/4 inch stainless steel. Well, I'm putting this center brace on with carriage bolts also. I was going to use screws, but I figure this center brace is going to take the most flexing, and I'm afraid it'll work those screws out. I don't know what this thing, I know it must have had a center brace. I made this one. But I don't know what the original center brace, how it was connected. So this will make it, this is the ultimate strength right here. Well, there's our little cast iron park bench for Memphis Monday 377. We put together with, that is dried deck wood, 5/4. Put it together with carriage bolts. We had to add the feet on it because it was the old feet had rusted off. So overall, pretty satisfied. Well, that does it for Memphis Monday 377, our 13th week of our 8th year. Today we restored an old cast iron park bench. Is really a resto mod because we ended up having to put wooden feet on it, and I figured out how to put them on there without drilling any holes in the cast iron. We attached all the slats with carriage bolts where we could. The project took a little longer than I thought it was going to because that stuff we put on there, that deck sealer we put on there, took about 24 hours to dry for every coat, and it was real blotchy, and I had to scrape some of it off. I think that stuff's good for decks, but it's not good for this kind of thing. All right, like, favorite, and share, and all the stuff you do on the internet. Most important, make sure you're back here next week for another exciting Memphis Monday. Thanks for playing along.